Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Ayo, God. You give me breath. You keep me fresh. So check my mic. Check my life. Check my sight. You get me right. Make me new. That's what you do. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 13. Oh, wow. I am just totally grateful from starting from episode 1, starting with the thought, the ideal, remembering what I went to school for. Like, it's just all coming into fruition. So I totally understand when people say, like, just start. Don't overthink it. Just start, go into it, because along the way, you're going to make changes. And I understand the along the way because I even listen back to my own episodes when I need to be reminded, as I do experience things even as I am creating these episodes. So in real time, I'm going through some of the things that I've talked about, and I have overcome some of those things already. So you're getting somebody that's being real here. So I'm not here to waste your time, but I also want to I'm not going to say their names, but they know who they are. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come into a studio and even create the material, because that's somebody giving of their time and their services and their facilities for me to be able to do this. And I am so grateful for the two people in particular who are a blessing to me. And I'm not ready to divulge their names as of yet, but one day I will do that. So they have been very helpful to me in order to get this material out to you all, the listeners. So hi, everybody, and I hope that you all are doing amazing this week, this day, this hour. I hope that you all have taken the time out to think about your giving, your doubt, your playing behind the scenes, playing small. Any demonic attacks that you may be experiencing, because a lot of people don't want to talk about those things because they'll try to label you as schizophrenia or bipolar when you're none of those things, because there is a spiritual world and they have a hierarchy, levels, all of those things. Remember, the enemy is jealous of you, so he's going to do things to deter your life. So you need to be equipped and you need to have access to something that you can listen to remind you that you are not alone as a point of reference. This week we are delving into fear and love. We talked about fear and giving. And giving is tied into love too, because again, you have to be able to trust to be able to love someone. You know, a lot of people don't, if they don't feel trust, they're not going to love. They're not going to give. And when you have a relationship with Christ, I have to say this. It required me to learn how to trust him, which can be so hard sometimes. I've had to learn how to love him even when I feel like he's not loving me. When he is actually loving me, but even no matter what I feel. So sometimes it's not an easy relationship if I'm honest. So I'm honest, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful to be here another day to be able to give this information to you all. And again, I always encourage all the time, like a broken record, I say over and over, if you find yourself in a situation where you need help, please don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people out there in the world going through things that nobody talks about in their family, or maybe their family silenced them. So now they're afraid to tell their friends, their best friend, their boyfriends, their husbands, their wives. You know, they're afraid to speak up. So there needs to be a platform that allows them to do so. And I hope this podcast and these episodes are giving you the courage to be able to speak up and know you are not alone spiritually. Spiritually, the enemy will make it or create environments to isolate you, to make you feel alone, so that you would go crazy, so that you would give up, so that you would quit, so that you would be angry, so that you would throw away your calling, throw away who your identity is. So he will work accordingly to who you are as the individual. So I want you to know, if you have to play these episodes over and over again, please do so. But please reach out to a local pastor. Go online and find a church that speaks to you, that's helping you with the areas that you need help with spiritually. Call a prayer line. Join a Bible study group in church. If you feel comfortable, join a group that you feel that can help you answer the questions that you have. But I also know that even in some churches, you can't get that. In some churches, it's just all this pop, smoke, and mirrors, you know? You can't get the kind of help that you need, or you have to be a member to even get the help. So I encourage you to look, but I encourage you first and foremost to go before God and let him know that you need help. Let him know. Ask him to open up doors to send you to the right people. Pray over the doctors that you go to, because not every doctor is listening to help. Remember, they're in the business. And if I keep you coming back to bring more times in the office to be billed and get more money and pay more for the prescriptions and all of that, it's a business. So if you're not going to a faith-based doctor, you barely hear about them. But I know that there's some on Instagram. If you look, type in Christian doctors, you'll find some. And you may not be in where they're residing, whatever city or state that they're in, but see if you can find some that are in your neighborhood. But I would ask God to guide me and show me who this person is. I would ask God to show me the doctor that you want me to go to. So again, if you're fighting spiritually, because it is a battle, I've endured spiritual warfare. That's a whole nother episode. Maybe the upcoming season, I'll look at those things so I know what it feels like. It has not been easy. It's not for the faint. It's not for the weak. And even if you are weak in the Lord, if you are weak, you are strong in the Lord. That's the beauty about serving God, right? Jesus is amazing. Anywho, let's go ahead and get started with fear and love. I want to start off by defining love. According to the online Merriam Dictionary, love is a strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. Example, a child, a mother, a father, your family members, no matter their title. It's also affection based on admiration or common interest. It's also an assurance of affection. It's warm attachment, enthusiasm, or devotion. The object of attachment, devotion, or admiration, a beloved person, where you use terms of endearment like darling, or baby, or honey, somebody that you love. You use terms of endearment because you beloved them. It's unselfish, loyal, and benevolent. I'm sorry. That's not the one that I want to use. A person's adoration of God. But it is unselfish, loyal, and benevolent. Concern for the good of another. I was reading it wrong. So you have a concern for the good of another. So let's go back really quick. So we're defining love. A strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. Affection based on admiration or common interest. Assurance of affection. Example, give this person your love. You're giving that person your love. That's an assurance of your affection. When you have affection for someone, a good affection, you're going to do certain things for that person. And it's assurance of your affection. It's letting them know, yeah, he really does love me. She does love me. They love me. You know, I love me. You assure yourself with an affection. There's also the object of attachment, devotion, of admiration. The unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another, such as for a brother, your love for God, fatherly concern for the God of humankind. So think about all those examples of love. Now, as we talked about with giving, and we gave a definition for giving, this week the definition is for love. And there are reasons behind why a person is afraid to love. Again, a strong affection for another arising out of kinship, personal ties. And a lot of people love certain particular peoples with titles. You love your mom, you love your dad. You don't love your neighbor the same way you love your mom or your dad or your grandparents. Or you love your husband the way that you love your friend, or you don't. There are different levels to the love. So a strong affection for another, a person that's in a kinship, that's in your family or personal ties, or it's affection based on admiration or common interest. It's an assurance of affection, or most commonly, I would say the unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another. So loving other people, you have the best interest for someone, right? It's not a selfish thing, it's unselfish. So, reasons that people are afraid to love. And we all have been there at some point. Maybe you loved too hard and then you turned around and got hurt. Now you stop loving. So, we're going to start with vulnerability. Vulnerability is not easy. I have tended to be the person who people would say, you are emotional, you are sensitive. So meaning, and they use it to a disadvantage because they want to make it sound like, oh, I am just this emotional person walking around emotionally. Like when they attribute a woman as being emotional, they tie it into PMS or having your period or menstrual, right? When it has nothing to do with that, because God has wired me to be the one that is sensitive to my surroundings. I am sensitive to people so that way God can channel through me. God can use me to do what he can't get you to do because you're all tore up and broken hearted and sad and depressed and filled with anxiety, that you have to go out there and do all of these things, because there are people, and I don't mean you in particular, but in general, there are people like that. And they don't understand that God can't even use them as a vessel because they're in bondage, right? So being vulnerable is not easy. You have to be open. You have to be willing to share. You have to be open enough to say, receive something. And you ask yourself, what am I opening? What am I being vulnerable to receive? And a lot of people, you've heard even in your own lives, people that say they're not going to get married again, or they never want a boyfriend or girlfriend again because they lost one, or the person cheated on them. So now they shut down their vulnerability and they're afraid to be that again. But I want to say something in general in terms of relationships. A lot of men, when they go through a broken relationship, they'll move on real quick, no problem. And I'm not saying that to say that that's 100% good, but I'm using it as an example as they move forward. They don't stay stuck in the, oh, I just cheated, I just divorced, I just this, I just did that, I just did this. And so what? They move forward. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't move forward without, going back and checking your heart posture and getting the help that you need, or the counseling, or, making sure that your next relationship is not a rebound. So I'm not agreeing to that, but I'm saying in how they move forward. And a lot of women tend to stay stuck and shortchange themselves because they're afraid to be vulnerable again to the right person. And that's why God wants you to guard your heart. And that, again, so much comes out of these episodes, and God is speaking to me all at once sometimes, and I'm getting revelation upon revelation as I present the information to you all. But that's a whole nother episode, right, with being vulnerable and giving. So if you don't give your heart to the wrong person, then you don't have to risk it being broken by the wrong person, and then now it shuts you down from love. So being vulnerable after you've been hurt, you don't want to open up again. You're not willing to say give of yourself, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not loving this person again. Because it does take energy, it does take you giving. It does take you to say, okay, well, you know what? Let me sit and listen to him. Let me sit and listen to her. Let me sit and do this. Let me think about this. You have to give of yourself and give time. You have to be willing to share. And sometimes that's scary too. Just like being willing to share to
tell someone that you've dealt with demonic attacks. You know, a lot of people don't talk about those things. They'll talk about it on a Netflix series. They'll talk about it on a movie that's coming out, the latest movie. But personally, a lot of people are afraid to say that they've dealt with demonic attack. That requires you to be vulnerable. That requires you to be giving. Tell that to a doctor, because they won't, if they've never had demonic attack and they're not trained to think about the spiritual, they're going to say, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. And if it's happening with their own children, because they're doctors, they might just give them some medicine for ADHD or autism, or give them some Ritalin or something, you know? And that's not a good look, anywho. But being vulnerable requires you being able to share and being able to open up again and open up your heart, your soul, your mind. And after being hurt, you kind of shut down sometimes, and you don't want to do that. So that's one reason to be afraid of loving. You're apprehensive. The fear is there. You're scared. You're apprehensive. If you love again, are you going to get hurt again? If you open your heart up again and maybe you lost your partner, you're a widow at a younger age, older age, you're a widow, you lost your partner to maybe a bad accident, or you were praying to God to not take that person away, and that person ended up going, and it might not have even been God. It could have been the enemy. Because a lot of people like to blame things on God, but remember, there's an enemy who has no love for you at all. I don't care how bad of a witch you are. That enemy that you're serving, whether you're necromancer, whatever you may be, that enemy does not love you. That enemy is just pimping you out to do the dirty work. So there is no love there. You're selling your soul to do what you're doing. So, and I say this to say this, a lot of people love to blame God. God doesn't always take away your loved one, right? So someone might say, well, God took away this person out of my life, so now they're not going to open up again to God again. They're not going to be vulnerable to love God. They're not going to be vulnerable to receive a new person. Oh, there's some people who, again, you're apprehensive, you're afraid. You lost a child, and you're afraid to go make another one because you feel like if you do that again, maybe the same thing will happen. And again, that's fear. You have to be careful with fear, because fear wants to keep you, again, stifled in the background. Fear does not want you to be blessed. Fear is not associated with any positive feelings in your body. So fear can affect your health. So I want you to think about those things. Another reason why someone might be afraid to love is previous hurt. Your boyfriend broke your heart, your girlfriend broke your heart, your wife cheated on you, your husband cheated on you. Love didn't pan out for you the right way. Everybody else fell in love and it lasted, but for you, you were hurt from it. And that made you say, nah, I'm going to just think about me. It made you become selfish. Now you're going to go out there and do everything about you. And I'm not saying that that's wrong for you to pour into yourself. You should do that even if you have a relationship with someone that you're in love with. Because whether you're married or not, you should be taking time aside to love upon yourself, so that when you come back to the bedroom, when you come back to that relationship, when you come back home for the day, you can be loving and you can have something to give. Because you can't keep pouring out of an empty cup. And I know what an empty cup feels like, because I've been in professions that draw from the cup, and no one was ever filling it back up. And that's the difference in me podcasting and me creating these episodes, because I get something back out of it that's fulfilling. And it's not like the other professions where it drains you and takes you. A gift card cannot fill back up your cup. Food in the staff lounge or the lunchroom or the break room is not something that fulfills, something that when you're giving so much of yourself and you're getting so little back. So also think about those jobs that you're on. Hint, this is a message for somebody who's on a job that's draining you. Think about this. Okay, unfamiliar territory. There are some people who just don't know what love is about. They're afraid of it. It's unfamiliar to them. They've never been in love. Nobody in their family's been in love. Nobody's modeled it for them. So it's unfamiliar to them. You know, when something is unfamiliar to you, you're not sure. You're going to ask questions. You're going to be curious. You're going to Google it. You're going to wonder about it. You're going to watch other people. You're going to be vicarious and live through other people to see how they fare in their situations. So unfamiliar territory, you don't know what it is to love. Nobody's ever loved in your family. Nobody's modeled it for you. All you know is, and real talk, all you might know is just to have sex. All you might know of is having a fling here or there. You might not know what it is to have a healthy, wholesome relationship where that person loves you back because of what you've gone through. And some people are not going to be honest to say that. Another reason why you might be afraid of loving is because you're following the world. The world doesn't always champion love until it's Valentine's, until it's February and all the Hallmark movies come out, the romantic Hallmark movies, then they push it out in the air. It's a certain time of the year that the world says you should be in love. So if you follow the world through the culture, through the music, it's better just to have someone to have sex with. It's better just to have money to buy the material things. They're not pushing love. And in certain communities, they don't do that. In certain communities, they push singleness. Certain communities, and you can figure that out on your own. Certain communities, the world pushes for them to be single, for them to live broken, and nobody ever talks about that. Again, that's a whole nother episode. Following others. You have friends that talk about they're not going to be in love, and love is not this, and love is this, yada, 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 rah, 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 love is this. It's not worth it. So then instead of you thinking for yourself and being the leader that you are, you follow your friends. A lot of guys follow other guys. If they hear that their boys are sleeping with this one chick or doing this one chick dirty, I've heard it all, right? They will follow and do the same thing. And if they're not strong enough to take the initiative, they will fall prey to that mindset of, you don't have to be in love. And then when they're in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s, love is important to you. It's healthy for you. You find yourself alone in a nursing home or in these establishments and these facilities where there are people who work in these industries who are not loving, and they don't care that you don't have anybody to love you. They're just there to do the job and get in and get out. Will leave you sitting there soiled, dirty, not smelling good. So again, I am a child of God, and from what I've learned and I've seen, as I am gifted this information, I in turn give it back out to you. So, and I'm going to say this again, if this podcast is not for you, but you are listening to it to take a chance, I ask that you share it with someone in your life. Don't be stingy. Share it with someone where you work at, where you go to church at, where you live at, that can use this information. So following others will keep your heart out of love, and love is necessary. And finally, you've seen family members who were in love and it didn't work out for them. They were in love, it did not work out, so you find yourself speaking word curses over your life by saying you are going to be like your mom, or you're not going to be like your mom, you're going to be like your dad, you're going to be like this because you saw what happened, or you're never going to get in a relationship, you're never going to love because it didn't work out for your grandma, your mom, when in actual reality, the enemy has created generational curses in your bloodline, and you don't realize it. But that's what you're addressing when you say you're not going to be like them, or you're probably going to end up like them, and not knowing that that's not a generational blessing, because God has called us to be fruitful and to multiply. And we're supposed to be fruitful in every area of our life. So that's how you know you're working with the kingdom of darkness to some extent in that area. So check those areas in your life. Here we go again. I'm giving you information for future episodes, but I'm giving you wisdom and knowledge that I've learned along the way, and I've experienced it myself. So think about those things. Now, your fear of love It affects your entire being. It is not freedom. The Word of God says, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. There is freedom. And we know what freedom is versus bondage. Bondage, you're limited. There's limitation in what you can and cannot do. And when you are afraid of love, your health is affected. I am someone that has worked with many different ages. And I have seen from the littlest to the oldest shaking, like their body shaking, fingers shaking, hands shaking, jittery. And you might say physically, oh, it's because physically this is what's wrong. Do you know that love, having love in your heart, having love in your body and your soul is replenishing? Do you know that love can quiet that hurt, quiet your heart, quiet your soul, quiet that touch? When you're jittery and anxious and you have someone loving you, you all know what it feels like when you, I always go back to high school crush because I've worked with different ages and I've seen when they see the person that they like. When you see the person that you've liked or you like or you love, your body lights up like a Christmas tree. Your heart posture, your physical stance, it changes. So stay with me on this. So imagine that, and then imagine not having that in your life to having nothing in that area. Then your body is, who's lighting up your body? Who's stimulating you to make you feel happy? And I'm not talking, because, we're doing real talk on my episodes here, right? We're talking about what it is to be called behind the scenes, all of those things. Some people use drugs to get stimulated. And that's not beneficial for their health. Again, certain communities are marketed drugs. If they have love, when you get love, it shows in the food that you eat. It shows the way that you carry yourself. It shows the way that you talk. It shows the way that you think. It's going to come out of your pores. Like somebody that drinks a lot. Those of you who have experienced people in your family who drank, or maybe they're still drinking, you can smell the liquor on someone. It comes out of their pores. So the antithesis of that is if somebody is in love, there are haters out there. And some of you all have probably experienced that. Ooh, he must be in love. Ooh, why he getting this? And why she smiling? Because she's walking in love. You know how they say your head is in the clouds. Love is important to your body and the serotonin. So think about fear being your enemy. Think about how the enemy, how Satan uses fear as a weapon against you. So now it's affecting your health because you're afraid to be in love. You're feeling aches and pains in your body. You're not walking around smiling. Mentally, you're depressed. You're jealous. You're angry. You're sad. You're confused. You're feeling all of these things. And I'm not speaking these things over you. I'm saying that these are possible things that people that deal with lack of love can be feeling at any given time. And if you're walking around sad and you're walking around bitter and you're walking around angry, hateful, whatever the emotions you may be feeling, you're feeding it some type of way, whether you realize it or not. And it's so easy to feed these feelings mentally. You can put on somebody that's in love is in front of you and you're not getting love. You feel empty in some type of way. So now you're going to go play a song that's talking about being empty. So now you're feeding that spirit of emptiness. You're feeding it instead of filling it back up with the appropriate things. So we're having a real talk conversation right now. I hope y'all got your pen and papers out. I hope y'all listening because this podcast is going somewhere. And I know that's what God has shown me. And I've had haters and I know what it feels like to be hated on. But I love walking in love. You know why I love walking in love? because God has a reward for that. And we go back to the last episode. He said, do not be weary in well doing, for in due season. He is El Roy, the God who sees me. So if I have loved you with all my heart and you took it and you stomped on it, that says something about your heart posture. Just wanted to let you know that. Socially, you're not in love, so now you're hanging out with certain people. You don't want to hang out with the people who are in love because you feel left out. Because, and honestly, it does kind of feel that way. I've been the third wheel. I know what that feels like. I've been that person that did not have anybody, and I'm accompanying the couple, and the couple's touchy-feely, lovey-dovey, and it's like, okay, what about you? You're wondering, where is yours? Because you want to feel it too. But it's easy. It's easy to get upset by it. It's easy to get bothered to where your heart posture changes. And all these years, I can truly say that love is still a beautiful thing to me. And I look forward to the person that God has intended for me, because I have a whole lot of love to give him wherever he is. And I pray that he's being obedient to God so that God could line us up together. But getting back to what I was saying, so socially, you don't want to go out. You're closed off now. You don't want to go out on a girls' trip because love, and they're in love and you're not in love. Or you don't want to hang out with your boys because of this, this, and that. And you know what kind of doors open? The minute you start recognizing that you're not in love and fear is there, fear will have you in your apartment by yourself, listening to defiling music, watching adult movies, pornographic movies, which then turns into lust. Lust opens doors. Same when we talked about how fear works with other demons, with infirmity and all other type of things, then those doors open. And now you're feeling all these other things, and now your body's being affected by it. You're being affected by it socially because now you're hating on people. You don't want to go out and hang out. You don't want to do anything. Or now you're emotional with it. And I'm not talking about a good emotional. I'm talking about a bad emotional. Always depressed, always sad. It's okay to be sad for a minute. And I mentioned in one episode Ty Tibet, his song Only One Night though. I love that song. Because I was a person that has always, would say to my friends in the past, just be you being sad. Why are you depressed? You being sad too long. Don't nobody want to hang around somebody who's sad too long. Let's be real, because that can rub off if you're not strong. Don't nobody want to be around somebody who's depressed so long, angry so long. That's an environment that you have to stay in. And I am not saying that you should never feel depressed. I have felt depressed. I have felt angry before. I felt sad before, but it was only one night. And that song wasn't out. That song was nowhere when I was feeling those things because I only felt it for one night. People would say to me, you get up the next day and you're so happy and you're so this because God didn't, and I'm thankful for that. He didn't wire me to be that way. So if I start feeling depressed, I know I'm dealing with spiritual warfare. Because that's how the enemy wants to attack me, because I'm the happy person. I do not like being depressed and sad. And whether I'm in love or not, I love God and I love me enough to go out there and love up on myself and still give love to others. So we don't want to be too selfish that we can't give to others, right? But you should be spending time with yourself, loving up on you as well. But not to the point to where you are your God, right? So fear and love, again, the emotional, your perception of love. You've been broken by love, so now you feel like love is nothing. You perceive love in a negative way. And that perception is now putting you, it's like a stronghold, because now you're thinking that, oh, love is nothing, love is this, and that's not true, because the enemy wants you to think that. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Can you give your only begotten child? Can you do that? Can you give your only begotten something that's real dear and personal to you? Can you give that? Because that's an act of love. So your perception of love can change your giving alter your health. Think about all of those things. And it's important. It's easy to slip and feel negative because even I have to, every day that I get up, I have to put on the armor of God because now I understand what it is to be called. Hence, that's why it's called to be called. Before I didn't know. And the enemy can come at you all types of ways. So you have to know whose you are and who you are in regards to love. Because if you don't know love, now you're operating in sin because now you're practicing hate. And that's not what God has called you to do. Now, he does acknowledge righteous anger, but he encourages you through his word to not let the sun go down and you be angry because now there's open doors for other negative things to happen to you. Okay? Also, your fear of love, right? So the first example that I gave you, my apologies, the first thing that I just finished explaining to you, it affects your health, mental, social, emotional perception of love. That comes under your entire being. So when you are afraid to love, your entire being is affected through your health, mental, social, emotional, and perception of love. Next, it keeps you from receiving the benefits of love. The benefits of love, you are kept from it if you are operating in fear. If you are operating in fear of love, you're afraid to partaking love because love is a give and a receive, right? Then you're going to miss out on the benefits. One, relationship. So now you're walking around, the world loves to talk about being antisocial or self-made or do it all by yourself. No relationship, that's why you don't need no friends or you good by yourself. You stand 10 toes down by yourself. No, they don't want you to have no relationship. You have to have some type of relationship. And your relationships have to be healthy. And the only way you're going to know if they're healthy because some people exist in relationships that are not healthy. But because they're broken, that's all they know. And if that's all they know, then they're going to remain in a broken relationship. They don't know any better. Some people really don't know any better. But in relationship, you have to have somebody on your team. I did not do this podcast by myself. Someone had to show me how to access the app, how to press this button, which button represents this, what this does, what that doesn't do, how to do the speaker, how to do that. I didn't know that by myself. Even if I say I looked on YouTube by myself, okay, someone put YouTube together in order for me to be able to look at it. So I'm not doing it by myself. But a lot of people are taught that they do things by themselves. And the benefit of a relationship, the word of God in the book of Proverbs says that two heads are better than one. And think about that. So when you have a partnership too, a lot of people are teaching teenagers and young adults or senior citizens or adults or whatever title you want to give, whatever rung of the ladder you are on in life, that it's good to be alone. Sometimes it is to steal away. That's another episode forthcoming, to steal away and have moments to yourself where you work on you and you replenish you. Whether you're a mother or father, you're the head of the household. That's a business you have to run. You need time to pour into yourself, right? So that's a benefit of love, is you having a relationship, you having someone that understands you there, right? And relationship is not just in that sense. When you go to school, there's a relationship between the teacher and the student. When you go to work, there's a relationship between the boss and the employee, the coworker to coworker. At home, the mother to the father, the mother to the daughter, the mother to the son, the father to the daughter to the son, the cousin to the cousin. Whichever way you want to look at it or rearrange it or arrange it, relationship is important. And you need to have that. So if you're broken by love or afraid, then you're missing out on the benefit of having someone there to assist you because you can't do everything by yourself. God also says that it's not good for man to be alone. That's why he made a partner for Adam. And he put Adam to sleep to do it. It's not good for you to be alone all the time. How many people are alone dealing with depression? How many people are alone dealing with anxiety? How many people are alone dealing with bullying? How many people are alone dealing with domestic violence? How many people are alone dealing with poverty? It takes that one person to come into your life and say, do you know how you're living is not healthy for you? Do you know what you're going through? You don't have to deal with it alone. So there's benefits to having a relationship, and every relationship is not the same relationship. The relationship that you have with your mom is not the same that you have with your boss, your coworker, or your best friend, or your husband, or your friend, or your boys. Also, there's joy. When you have relationship, when you have love, love will make you leave your house smiling, happy, joyful. It makes you walk different. When you don't love something, you kind of get half behind it in the way that you perform. A lot of people talk about nowadays not loving their jobs. So they will say things like when they go to the job, they don't do the most. They're not doing anything outside of their job description. So you're not going to a place that you love. You're going to a place that there's dread, there's doom. Like you just dare to be there. And nothing feels good about that. It's like I'm just going to put on this facade. I'm just going to go to work and do whatever, knowing that you don't love it, but because you need your money. But when you love something, it's so easy to give to it. I could podcast all day. I could do episodes all day. I can be a creative all day because I love it. It's a gift that was given to me. There are some things that I don't love, and I'll mention that in another episode because as I exchange with you all, I am giving of myself to you all. And even though I can't see who you are that's listening, when you listen, I hope that in turn you're giving to yourself and you're going back to your household, wherever you live, whatever community you're in, wherever you reside, whatever job that you go to. I hope that you're giving back to them some type of love and some type of joy, because it's a joy for me to sit here and be able to do this. But it's really important to have love. And if you're following the world and the fear of it, you're missing out on the benefit of it. That joy makes you feel happy. When you're joyful, you want to do more things. You want to go out and spread the joy. When you're joyful, you dress different. You smell different. You take care of yourself different when there's love. And you all know what I'm talking about. I always go back to the crush because that's the best example for people to use. It doesn't matter what age you are. You could be a 70-year-old remembering when you first met your husband or your wife. You can remember that moment because you don't forget that. So as you think about fear and love and the benefits you missing out of it. Think about that first time you fell in love with that crush, even if it didn't end the way you wanted it to end. Your whole body, again, lit up like a Christmas tree or the 4th of July, right? You lit up. Your eyes are responsive. Your eyes are bright. Your shoulders are up. Your posture is different. You're open. You're receptive to it. So imagine when there is no love. If you're getting love and you're open and receptive, then the antithesis of that, the opposite of that, is you being closed and shut down. You're your security guard. Now your body's tense. Now you're feeling all of these things. Also, partnership. That's a benefit of love. Someone loves you back. That's a partnership. Even if that title is a small title. Like that might not be your best friend. That might be an acquaintance. But that acquaintance is giving you a love and the partnership that makes you say, okay, I can't do this with my best friend, but I can do it with my acquaintance. And when we go out, we still get to hang out. We have a good time. There is a partnership there. When there's love on the job and you have a good boss, let me say this, I've experienced bad jobs and good jobs. I've had more bad jobs than good jobs, but I remember the good jobs because the exchange between the supervisor and the boss, the director, and myself, amazing. Talk about everything. I could see the person when their eyes light up. I could see them when they're excited about the work that they're doing. I could feel it and see it and hear it. You could taste it. So it's easy to feed off of that kind of energy. It's like saying if you've never been to New York, if you've never been to New York, I didn't say live in there because everybody don't want to live in New York, but if you've never been to New York, then you don't know that feeling of an Empire State feeling. You don't know that feeling of something that's grand, and when you have the desire to be grand and to be great, there's a drive that's there that's not everywhere else. And for some people, they can, those places where you've gone to and it's like, that's not it. It may be the place for someone else, but it's not it for you. It's not grand. It doesn't give you anything back. So think about that when you have somebody, that energy, and they give you that 10, that 20, and it pumps you up. When you're watching your favorite movie, or you're watching, or you're scrolling social media, and that influencer says the right thing to you, that you now want to subscribe to their page, they have, something inside of you has went off because they caught your attention. It makes you want to open up now, and then their partnership coming. Okay, I want to partner with that person. Why are you giving a like and a love? Why are you commenting on their reel? Because they're saying something that made you say you should have been in business long time ago, or you need to make your money that way, and they have the information and you need it. So now you want to partner with them. Same thing when that's a benefit of love. Somebody loves you enough to get online and present and not gatekeep and put that information out there for you to get it. For you to be able to listen to this podcast and to these episodes and then say, you know what? That girl is saying what I was feeling. You walk away from this episode, no matter how long it is, and you're able to say, I learned something. So now you want to partner. You become a subscriber. Partnership. Because isolation is how your enemy wins. I'm not saying that it's not good to be alone, because sometimes you need time to work on you. You took a hit, you took a loss, go back to the drawing board. Go back. But even you shouldn't be so isolated that you can't get help and that you're not reaching out to others. But you need that partnership. There's also growth. When you have love, you're open to growing. Because when you love somebody, it's like, okay, you hurt that person's feelings. And then they come to you and they tell you, you want to change it. You want to make them happy. Not in terms of people pleasing, but you want to get better. You don't want your partner to go out there and cheat on you because you're not doing what you should be doing. And that's a whole nother episode too. They shouldn't even be cheating on you in the first place, but we're not talking about that. That's neither nigh or here right now. But you want to please that person. When you're getting love and loving is good, it's easy to serve. I'm going to say this again. When you are getting good love, like Anita Baker says, she wants to know what good love feels like. For those of you that have felt good love, it makes you want to get flowers and cook for the person and dress better, smell good. It makes you want to go to the gym because you know that person loves when you go to the gym, meaning you finna do things that you shouldn't be doing. Another episode outside of what the Word of God says for you. But in that aspect, loving opens you up and it makes you want to do better. It makes you want to grow. It makes you go on Sephora and say you want to make your face look all, what do you call it, dewy and shiny and glass skin. Not just because of TikTok, because it's youthful, it's vibrant. If I see that your face is glassy and it's shining, like back in the days, that would be called Vaseline or baby oil. And we're not talking about baby oil and Puff Daddy. Again, another episode. We're talking about before him, when baby oil made your face look dewy. You want to get sexier. You want to look beautiful. If you're a wife, you want to look good for your husband. You want to grow. Husbands, if you're listening, you want to grow because you don't want your wife looking at somebody else. Because if you haven't been to Miami or New York, you better check that because everybody look good. So husbands, get to the gym. Wives, get to the gym, whether your gym is at home or however, get to the gym, look good because that's a part of growing too. Take care of yourselves. Health-wise, get to the doctors. Make sure you know your health status. Because if you're unhealthy, how are you going to be a blessing to someone else, right? So check on that. Compassion. That's a benefit of love. Love makes you compassionate for other people. When you feel good, you walking around like a little bird, springtime, bouncing around on the sidewalk, right? Or in the tree from branch to branch. You're tip-topping, hip-hopping, walking down the street like, la, 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 la. You feel some type of way. Oh, hey, how are you? You want to talk to everybody. You want to say, hey. You want to give, at moments like that, you compassion. Having compassion is good because you can't always be about yourself. Sometimes, if you haven't learned anything from living long enough, you could be going through something. And as you're going through that something, somebody comes along and you're able to give to them. If you're compassionate and you sow seed into that other person's life, although you're going through, that giving that they give back takes you off of what you're going through. Because when you don't have a partner, when you don't have love, the enemy can bring you down worse and make you feel bad, because then you're like, now you're alone. But on top of being alone, now you feel more depressed because you don't have anybody there. But if you would have compassion and joy and love in your heart, you would get up and come up out of your funk, come up out of your blues, depression, your sadness, and go out there and serve and give to somebody else and watch how that takes away stuff from you. Ability to be vulnerable. If fear keeps you away from love, you're afraid to open up. And that's not a good thing. You got to be able to open up to somebody. And I don't mean like blasting your information everywhere to everybody, but I'm just saying like being able to be vulnerable, to open up, to meet someone, to receive love. Some people are so broken by love, they don't want to be touched. You can't touch them. And then to the person who touches people, then you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, like they don't want me to touch them. But then when you have the love of God in you, it's easy to go and give somebody a hug, because you know the kind of love that he gives to you. Trust, that goes with giving, back with last episode. If there's a benefit of love because you learn to trust. I'm going to say this again. A benefit of being able to love is trust. You can trust and say, my husband has me. Your wife has you. God has you. People say God got them, but then I don't know if they really believe in that sometimes. Because that's saying that you trust that God has you. Some people just say that to say that. But do you trust that God has you? Because trust is not easy, but it's a benefit of if you love. Like, I love the Lord. And some days, depending on the circumstances, sometimes the circumstance is so heavy that it's like, okay, this is going to get better. But because I love God and I know he brought me from a past experience, a past circumstance, then I've learned to trust and say, even if I don't believe it, I trust that it's not going to be this way tomorrow. Example, episode 1, actually recording the first recording the first episode. We are now on episode 13. Episode 1, I didn't know what episode 13 was going to look like. I didn't know if I would be here to do episode 13. So there's been growth from episode 1 to episode 13, and I have grown from that. And there's been a joy I have developed each time that I put these together, and I go back and I listen to it myself. There are things that I might change. Like, you might hear some background noise sometimes. I don't like the background noise, and somebody might say, that's perfection. Well, I serve the Lord. He is a God of excellence. Even though he's a loving God, he's a God of excellence and a God of order. So I am me loving and serving him. I want excellence and those things to be in the work that I do for him, right? So that's important for me. But I have to learn to trust him. And I have to trust that when I do episode 1, I hear some of the mistakes, maybe being too close to the speaker, too close to the microphone. I can hear the slight smacking that my tongue makes because I deal with dryness in the mouth. So sometimes it sounds like I'm trying to, it's dryness there. And I don't like that sound, but I say, hey, whatever. But I'm grateful for it. So being able to trust. Now, what does God say about love? Again, some of the examples that I give you all, there are more examples that you can look on in the Bible yourself. And again, you can always go on gotquestions.org. So it's G as in girl, O T as in Tom, gotquestions.org. And you can find a lot of answers to biblical questions and spiritual questions, especially those of you that are new to the faith, or you're going through a heavy time and you're doubting God and you're not trusting or loving Him. Go to God Questions, go to the Bible, and go to Him. But what does God say about love? 1 John 4:18 says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. So there should be no fear in love. There might be vulnerability, but there should be no fear. You shouldn't be afraid to love. But perfect love casts out fear. So the perfect love is going to cast out, mathematically, it's canceling out the fear. So if I love you, whatever fear that may be going on, if my love is perfect, according to the word of God, not according to man, is going to cast out the fear. So, example, you've heard that all men are dogs, men cheat, right? Some people take that perception and or stereotype and they go with it. You could be standing in front of the person who really, really loves you, but because you believe that and that's your perception, that's your stronghold, what you're going to have to ask God to remove that from you to help you break that down. You are not open to love because you're halfway loving, like, okay, you're not giving 100% of yourself because you feel like he's gonna still go cheat on you. Your insecurities, the other things that you may be feeling that's in the way will cause you to walk away from a good relationship, a good man or a good woman because of that. There is no fear in love. So take away, if you have fear in love, then we got a problem there. You got to take it away. But perfect love casts out fear. The Bible commands humans to love God with all their heart, soul, and mind in Matthew 22:37. So if you have to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, what are you doing for the person that God is going to place you with, your partner, your husband, your wife? You're to love God with, if you can't love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, then how are you going to love see, that's where the problem is. How are you going to love a husband? How are you going to love a wife? Because that gift comes through Christ. He gave Adam the partner. Adam didn't get the partner on his own. He gave Adam the partner. So your partner is given to you by Christ if you're not following Christ, then you're doing it the other way. And the opposite of that is you're walking in error, however you found your person. And sometimes, again, we like to blame God on things, and you picked the wrong man, you picked the wrong husband, and now you have kids from them, and now you're complaining about the kids, and then it's the baby mama, the baby daddy. You hate this person, you hate that person, and God didn't even pick that person for you. So if you love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, right, that opens you up to the benefits, like some of the benefits, the promises of giving, and it allows you to be vulnerable. It allows you to learn to trust because you don't always know what God is doing. In the making of this podcast, I didn't know what God was doing. And I was dealing with something and still dealing with something. And I am amazed that God is still showing up, sometimes in small ways. And we're not talking about the grand one of you being alive to see another day, but the small little things throughout the day, which keeps me going to the next day. So you don't know. So you have to have trust. You have to be able to love with your whole heart, soul, and mind in order to move forward in any relationship. Because if you don't, if you say that you're loving your husband or you're loving this person, even as a mother or father, you say that you love your child, but you are sowing discord by going to the other child. You say you love child A, but you're going to child B talking about child A to child B. So you're not walking in 100% love. So those are things for you all to think about. You say that you love your job, but you go to the job and you're sabotaging. You say that you love people, but you're hating. If you're working in witchcraft, you really don't love, because you're working to your need to work witchcraft is your need to control. Your need to control is you dealing with jealousy, you dealing with envy, you dealing with greed. You want it right now, right now. Because some things you can't get right now from God. Some things God doesn't give it to you right now. Even a baby doesn't happen right now. God is the only being, God, that can make it right now, and it's legit right now. Other gods can give you false things that may seem like it's right now, but it's tied to generational curse. It's tied to you sabotaging your bloodline. So we need to think about if we're giving love from our whole heart, soul, and mind. The next one says we love because he first loved us. You're loving because God loved you first. So if God loved you first, and there are some people who will argue today that God doesn't love them because why they went through all these bad things. Before you blame everything on God, check your bloodline. Check your bloodline. Check your family. Check whatever doors you have open, because that can be part of it too. And it could be part of God has a calling on your life. That's why you're listening to be called. Because those who are called, they do not have an easy life. Contrary to what the world thinks, the ones that are called, because he said many are called but few were chosen, right? The ones that are called have a difficult life. They go through some difficult testings, trials and tribulations, but they do have some magnificent blessings and benefits and promises that God answers them on if they would continue to seek him and stay diligent before him. So God loved you first, so you love him back. If God loved you first and you love him back, then when you go out in the world, you know that God has loved you first. So you should be able to give love. God has loved you first. Why can't you give love? Is that love on a condition? You can't go out there and be loving to someone and be compassionate because you're broken. Then I encourage you to go to a counselor. I would say a faith-based counselor. I would encourage you again to go to those people who hurt you if you have the opportunity, and speak with those people who hurt you. Don't go out there in the world and be angry. Don't be vicious. Okay? Next, we are to love our enemies. That is, we are to actively seek what is best for them. Matthew 5:4-4. Other gods don't teach loving your enemies. They teach eye for an eye. That's not what Christ teaches. He does not teach eye for an eye. When you love your enemies, you're showing them a different heart posture. You see, if your enemy is hating on you very bad, if your enemy is doing you wrong horribly, and you remain nice to them, the Word of God says, when you do good and somebody repays you evil for doing good, then evil will never depart their house. People who are evil, they live, eat, and breathe it. Remember we talked about in the last episode how when somebody smells like liquor and they drink it a lot, it comes out in their pores. An evil person can't continue to hide their ways forever. Because even that person that's sabotaging on the job, eventually the person that's hanging with them, aiding and abetting them, their right-hand man, Ace Boon Coon, the person supporting the op, even that person will get tired because they're human too. An evil person has an evil environment. An evil person has the mentality that's evil. When they speak, it's going to be evil. So to maintain a friendship with an evil person, just like to maintain a friendship with a depressed person, you're going to at some point become depressed from hanging with the person who's always depressed. If they're not governing their situation right. The person that's being evil. Same thing. So God is not calling us to be evil to people. He calls us to love our enemies. If I love you and you hate me so much, the word of God says again that if you repay me evil for my good, then evil will never depart your house. You already lost. So the word of God has you from a place of victory. I already won. Now I lose if I become evil because you were evil to me first. See the last scripture that we just talked about? We love because he first loved us. 1 John 4:19. So God loved me and I love him back. The antithesis of that is if he hated me and I hate him back, it doesn't make it better. So now I'm putting myself in a place of losing. I am no longer winning. So the energy that you have to take to hate someone puts you in their energy field. And if that's what you want, then you go for it. I love to love. It is a beautiful thing. It's sexy to love too. I like being sexy. It takes too much negative energy to hate. And the enemy wants you to be hateful. So think about that. We are to love our enemies. And I know some of y'all say that y'all have some real horrible enemies. Some of y'all can name a list, go down the list and say how your mama, your father, your grandmother, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. You got some enemies. You got some ops. And you're listening to this saying, why should I love them? And you're probably cringing up right now in your body. And that's the part that I'm talking about. Your body cringing up against that enemy means you have given power to your enemy. They're not even there with you, but they're there with you. So check that what I just said. They're not even there with you, but they're there with you because you're cringing up. You have a beautiful life to live. You have so many beautiful things that you could be doing in this lifetime than letting an op or an adversary still kill and destroy your joy. Because you're giving power over to that person. We are to love our enemies. That is, we are to actively seek what is best for them. So that person who made you feel crappy, that person who made you feel sad, trust me, it hurts. And I know that it hurts because I have experience in it. And it's easy to put on a song that requires you to curse, that requires you to smoke, that requires you to drink, do some type of drugs, that requires you to say bad words, to speak bad things, that requires you to cry and be sad forever, that requires you to be sad and look at all the bad things that happen in your life. I understand. And it's easy to do. It's easy to turn the radio on. It's easy to put on your playlist and listen to those type of songs and be sad. And that would cause you to then hate your enemy. That's not going to make you love your enemy. And then the world does not believe in loving the enemy. So I need you all to consider when you operate like your enemy, then you're not loving yourself. You're taking away the joy because the action that it takes for you to become like your enemy means now you have to get rid of the joy. Because if you have joy and if you have love and you're practicing what the Word of God says, then you won't become like them. So consider that. And I know that that's a very, very hard one. Some of you all are probably going to counseling. I've met people over the years who are in counseling for years because of what somebody's done. If you could just tell your mind that person is not even worth you being stressed out, if you can find time to go before God, because it's not that easy, even though it can be, it's not that easy because your mind, you have to control your thoughts. You have to govern how you think about that person. You have to govern what you feel. And you're a human being. You're going to feel things. You're going to think things that's not loving. So and I'm hitting on this point because that's a serious one. Loving your enemies. When you love them, remember God has promises when you do his word and you carry it out, when you apply it, when you carry it out and you apply it, God has promises for that. It may not be a Bugatti or a new car, or a fancy house. It may not be those things. It may just be your heart being healed, that you're able to go on and find a better relationship. It may just be your heart being healed enough to say, Father, you hurt me. I'm sorry. I forgive you. It may be just enough for you to heal and tell your mother, to tell your partner, to tell your friends, to tell whoever, to tell the coworker, to tell whoever has hurt you in your life. It may be just enough for you to apologize, but to forgive them. So if you're operating out of love, then you can forgive and not walk around holding a grudge in your heart about someone who probably didn't know no better, who probably was broken too. So I'm just asking you to think about that. See, love and forgiveness, it all works together. Examples of love in the Bible. We have agape, philia, and eros. Agape is selfless, unconditional love. And you can find that in examples, the way that Jesus moved with the way that he was in relationship with his disciples. That's an unconditional love. Philia, philia, through friendship. You have friends that you are in relationship with. There's friendship. That's another type of love. Ruth and Naomi is an example. In the book of Ruth, if you don't know that story, I encourage you to go back and read it for yourself. In the book of Ruth, she was a Moabite woman. She came to Israel. She was a widow. Her husband was killed, and she came with her mother-in-law, Naomi, Ruth and Naomi. So Naomi lost her husband. So they too were in friendship because they both had that experience. And when they got to their destination, they both lived together. They helped each other. And it was through there that Ruth was able to grow, because if you go back into the story, Naomi encouraged Ruth to take off of her funeral clothes. So funeral clothes mean like your sadness. You know how you have y'all call it girlfriends, friend girls, your day ones. You know how you have the person in your life, and that person is the person that when you were going through stuff, they were there, right? Because not everybody's bad in this world. We have some friends that were there for us, ride or die. They were there with us, right? And they encouraged you. Baby, change your hairstyle. Baby, go lose weight. Baby girl, go do this. Go do that. Stop being sad. You know those friends, and some of them probably even left you because they got tired of telling you to stop being sad and stop listening to the same song all the time, right? But finally you got it, and you changed that appearance. You changed the sadness, and you grew out of the sadness, and you went to joy, right? Or you cut off all your hair and you colored it red, or colored it blue or purple. Because when girls go through things, they tend to cut off their hair. So I don't know why that's synonymous, because they want a whole new look. But think about Ruth and Naomi in that way. That's an example of love in the Bible. She lost her husband. Ruth lost her husband, but because she was real enough to be loving and compassionate to say, Ruth, her future husband was right there, Boaz, right? She told her, baby, change your clothes. Change your clothes and go put your head at the feet of him. And look what happened from that. And that's not to say, we're not talking about, this is not advice about being thirsty for some man. I'm not coming at you that way. But I'm saying in a friendship type love, philia, Philia, that's an example in the Bible, and you can find other places. Eros, that's romantic. Many people know Eros because everybody want to be in love, and they in love in the club, and they having sex and doing all kind of things, thinking some of that is Eros when it's just pure lust. But romantic love, Ruth and Boaz, Joseph and Mary. Think about Jesus' parents, right? Joseph and Mary. He had to support her. She became pregnant through God impregnating her, right? But everybody did not believe that. And they could have easily made Joseph, she was a virgin. But how she's pregnant and she's a virgin. So imagine what Joseph had to go through. People are talking in the town. Who is this chick? I thought, ain't that Joseph? Isn't that your wife? Who's she getting pregnant with? And then Joseph probably wanted to get drunk and talk about to Jesus that how Mary. He probably went to the bar and said, Mary, how you got pregnant? Now I know that's not from me. That's not his seed. You know how a lot of men like to deny that's their seed, knowing that they was all up in it. Okay. All right, here we go now. All right. Let's keep it PG. Okay. Now, he had to cover her with love. He covered her with love. That romantic relationship of being husband and wife, he covered her. He wanted to walk away. He felt the confusion for a second, but only for one night, only for a second. But he remained. He remained enough to get her to have the baby, to the manger. So I want you all to think about that. I've said a lot in this episode, a lot of good nuggets, as some people would say, nuggets, right? A lot of nuggets here for you all to listen to and to pay attention to. And so we're going to wrap this up really quick. So here we were talking about fear and love. We talked about the different definitions of love. One of them being a strong affection for another, arising out of friendship and, personal ties, like family, friendships. We talked about reasons that people may be afraid to love. They're afraid to be vulnerable. They're scared or apprehensive. Previous hurt, unfamiliar territory. They may be following the way of the world or culture, following others, and they've seen family members who've gone through stuff for being in love. How does the fear of love affect your entire being? It affects your entire being through your health, be it mental, social, emotional, the perception of love. It keeps you from receiving the benefits of the love. What's some benefits of love? Having relationships, healthy relationships, joy, partnership, growth, compassion, ability to be vulnerable, and trust. We talked about what God says about love. There is no fear in love. We have love because he loved us first. We are to love our enemies. We gave some little examples of why it may be hard to love your enemy. But we also explained that if you love your enemy, it keeps you from becoming like your enemy, which is not healthy at all, right? And you have some examples of love in the Bible, the agape, philia, and eros. And we gave some examples in the Bible. So if you want to, on your time, to further look into those, how Jesus operated with his disciples, how Ruth and Naomi were, Ruth and Boaz, and Joseph and Mary. And again, there are other people out there in the Bible that if you take the time and read, you might find stories that relate to your experience, which is helpful for you, right? I just want to thank you for your time again, and I thank God always for allowing me to see another day and another episode. And I encourage you again, if you need help in your life, do not be afraid to go out there and reach out to your primary doctor, a social worker, if you're in college, your advisor, student success center, if you're an adult, if you're a senior citizen, because sometimes the world likes to overlook senior citizens, and they were once teenagers who put in the manpower and the time in these companies to help them have grown to where they are. So even if you're a senior citizen listening to this episode, to this podcast, don't be afraid to go to your primary doctor. Maybe call ARP. Don't be afraid to call social services in your neighborhood or go to the welfare department and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help no matter what age you are, no matter what gender you are. You are entitled to get help if you need it. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. And all in all, make sure you find time to laugh, to have joy in your life. Find something to be thankful for, because that's something that can help you out of depression. It can help you out of sadness. And if you have never listened to Ty Tribbet's song, Only One Night, though, I ask you to go ahead and look it up so that you can listen to it. Until then, remember, I love you, and so does the Lord. This is To Be Called.
It's been so much fun. It's your girl signing off on the ones and twos, but not without him. You're gonna have to choose. So seek his kingdom first, and all things shall be added unto you. I ain't nothing without you, Abba. Mic check, mic check.